it's something that is new, or did we just get a name for them?
So when you're diagnosing mental disorders, we use the DSM-5 manual, and we go by the diagnosis presented in the DSM-5 manual. Unfortunately, 100% of all cases within the DSM-5 manual are all European-based. We have very little scholarly articles on perinatal and postpartum depression within the African society.
Let me assume that we all got what DSM is, because I did.
It's just a manual.
What is it?
It's just a manual.
It's
a manual, DSM-5. It's a diagnostics statistical manual for mental disorders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's like our Bible, quote unquote.
Okay.
When you're using to check diagnosis, because there are specific criteria that individuals have to meet before you give them a mental health diagnosis.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had this all along, but I think it's very recent that we have a name for it.
Right.
So is it something that women go through, like pregnant women and women who've just given birth go through? How common is it? And tell me about it. Yeah.
Right. So I think statistically you're looking at between 3 and 5% of 100,000. So it's pretty much quote unquote rare in terms of even within our societies. The data that I'm mentioning is a lot European, because we have very little information statistically within the African continent. And I guess that's an area for us to develop. Okay. Is it common now? Because I don't have scientific trends, it would be very unwise for me to say yes or no. And also that I know that there are viewers who are watching, and most of the time you hear a number, it goes directly to, okay, I'm possibly one of them. Mm-hmm. But I have observed actually that there's been increased in proper diagnosis. And then now we are talking about it more. So now it's well known. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at perinatal and postpartum depression. Actually, perinatal is observed as onset of major depressive episode when pregnancy starts. So that means that the pregnancy is the one that induces the depression. And so that during the time when you're pregnant, that's when you're depressed. Mm-hmm. It could be like she was mentioning, a certain event happened. So for her, it's getting pregnant when she was graduating. Mm-hmm. And for her, she said that she had her life planned out. So by the time she was 27, I think you said you needed like 4 children.
And 2 adopted.
Yeah, and 2 adopted. You're 31, baby's coming at that particular time. And what we have observed is that with depression, there's always grief, loss and grief. She lost the opportunity of her life planned first to get married, and then you get children. She's graduating with a baby. There's that loss and aspiration of the dreams. She lost the perception of, by 27, 4 children. So there's loss and grief accompanied there. And loss and grief is a huge thing within depression. So perinatal, as I said, is before. Postpartum depression is after. And you're looking at 0 to 6 weeks is baby blues. And baby blues is because I think gynecologists...
That's what we used to call them back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, we just assume like, oh, it's baby blues.
Yeah. And
not so many people understood
what
the dynamics and when does it now graduate into depression.
And that's after 6 weeks, actually between 6 to 8 weeks. And if you recall, many gynecologists actually say, hey, you can get pregnant between 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, that's when your body is gone back to the hormonal balance that it used to be. It's important to note that the cervix area of the woman is one of the most highest in terms of hormonal sensitivity. And there's a lot of activity that has gone within the entire pregnancy and then now giving birth, either through CS or normal way of giving birth. Yeah. So post 8 weeks and you're still feeling sad, you're still feeling withdrawn, you feel, as Chebet I think mentioned, like I'm not the right mother for this baby. You're finding that activities you used to do before, you're not enjoying doing them now. The clinical term is anhedonia, where you just have a lack of motivation, joy, enjoyment. You don't want to be near the baby, you don't want to be near people, you don't want to go to work. There's a general feeling of hopelessness. There's a general feeling of helplessness as well. Towards the end, as the depression progresses, there's the onset of suicidal ideas. And what I'm mentioning is actually the first criteria of PPD. We have 5 criteria. So the first is, out of the 9 that I've mentioned, 1 has to score 5. And then you move to criteria B, which is the depression has not been caused by substance abuse. Of course, many women who are pregnant do not drink. And then the criteria C is it should not be caused by any physiological illness. Criteria D is it should not be caused by any schizophrenia kind of issue. And criteria E is that it should not be caused by hypomaniac or maniac. Maniac episode is where there's just an elevated feeling of high. You're not able to sleep. You're constantly just making decisions sporadically. You're happy, you're laughing, and it's just on a high. So if they meet, there's a certain threshold on all this. So of course from B down, you realize it should not be caused by alcohol, not a disease, not a mental disorder. The other one that I've left out, which is very important, is we check on